Good evening and welcome to another installment of The Musician Studio. I'm Jonathan Parrish, the Executive Director of the Maryland Symphony Orchestra. And tonight in The Musician Studio, we'll be visiting with a longtime and very important member of the Maryland Symphony Orchestra, who has a very key role in our next concert. The concert's coming up in the middle of March here, where we'll perform the music of Mozart and Mahler's Fourth Symphony to be specific. And this is a concert program that was to be performed in March of 2020. And you may recall that that concert didn't happen. I don't remember what the circumstances of that cancellation was, blocking it out. But we are now presenting that program 2 years later, the long-awaited Mozart and Mahler program. And we're joined tonight by, as I said, a longtime member, nearly 20 years with the Maryland Symphony in the violin section. She is the Associate Concertmaster, and for this concert coming up in March will be our concertmaster. Please welcome to the Musician Studio, Dr. Joanna Owen.
Joanna,
Hello, great to see you. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's great to have you coming to us from your musician studio. I see your lovely violin artwork on the wall there that inspires you, I imagine, when you practice. So we're eager to get to know you a little bit better and hear a little bit about your musical journey, how you chose music or how music chose you, how you and the violin got together. And your training and then your work with the MSO. And then we also want to talk a little specifically about some special things related to the performance of Mahler's Fourth Symphony that fall under the responsibility of the concertmaster. We'll save that. Just want to whet people's appetite, but please share with us a little bit about your journey to becoming Dr. Owen and teacher and fabulous performer of violin.
Thank you, Jonathan. I don't think I deserved all the accolades, but let me get started. I wrote a little script for this, so if you see me looking away, I might be looking at my notes. So a long time ago, my parents came to a parent-teacher conference, and the teacher said, you know, your daughter really loves music, but she also loves geography. And I think one day she will travel the world. And was she right? I did not know at the time, but I left my native Poland to come to the US to study and to live here, to get married, have family, but also visited 4 continents. So I've been really lucky that music took me to many places. I was born in Warsaw, Poland, in the capital, but I did spend some of my early years in a city in northern Poland that was, it's called Elbląg. It's very close to the place where Copernicus wrote his treatises. So it seems pretty important. It was an area that was mixed ethnically because it was Prussian for a number of years, and then it became Poland after the Second World War. But unfortunately, a lot of the cultural heritage was lost when at the end of the war, the Russian army kind of swept through the area and unfortunately just burned a lot of it. So historical buildings were lost. They were not rebuilt till the 70s. That was also the case with some of the important buildings in Warsaw, Poland, like the Royal Castle. So how did I get myself there? My dad was by training, turned actor and director. And he got a government position to start a dramatic theater in that city of Elbląg. And my mom, a pianist, also helped him with the musical approach to things and just chose music for his plays. I must say that he took it from 0 to 60. It was quite incredible because this institution became nationally renowned and beloved by the community. And I see a parallel here because culture gems are everywhere. And the culture gem in Hagerstown is the Maryland Symphony with Elizabeth and Jonathan at the helm. So we are very grateful to have you lead us. Absolutely. So since my parents were pursuing artistic profession, I was encouraged to do the same. I was very lucky to receive music instruction, not just lessons, but also music theory, ear training, history at my elementary school. And guess what? All of that was free. So it was an incredible benefit to young people who were interested in music. However, it was free to people who were early bloomers, who could see, who could show an aptitude for music early on, and also those who lived near a metropolitan area. So, and some inadvertently were left behind. Fast forward 20 years, I'm just finishing my undergrads, and my mom and I came up with an idea of a nonprofit to address that kind of a need in areas outside of Warsaw, in the outskirts. So we developed very close relationships with the institutions, mostly elementary schools and preschools. And again, I'm going to draw a parallel here to our beloved institution, Maryland Symphony. We have a wonderful education director, Anna, and she puts a lot of ensembles in schools for workshops, individual visits, quartet concerts, woodwind chamber concerts. And also Elizabeth is so dedicated to education. She's always been leading the youth orchestras and just championing the music education in this area. Our audience in Warsaw was really tiny. Some of them were like 3 or 4 year olds, and it was a great joy for us to see them blossom and develop their interest in music by, something simple, clapping, percussion instruments, walking around, dancing. It was really a joy to see. Our visits were monthly, so it was 10 visits a year. So we really could feel that we had a nice grasp on the curriculum that the kids were working for. We would always invite an actor and have some small ensemble participating. So that was one of those lovely situations that we felt. It was, and I must say, it's in its 25th year and it's still thriving. So I'm super proud of my mom.
Bravi.
Honestly, I believe music should be all inclusive. So it really doesn't matter where you come from or what your age. I have students who are, their ages are, one of them is 7-year-old. Kind of you would expect that. But the other one's 80 years old. So it's just the whole spectrum. In recent months, I started working with the Iris Music Project, which is a piano trio, so violin, piano, and cello. We curate and concerts and lead residents' ideas through assisted living and independent living, as well as skilled nursing residencies. So we also dig deep and bring the traditions of the residents and adhere to their customs and their likings. And in fact, just today I had a presentation on Mahler in this mostly Jewish community in Rockville. So I also believe that music should be carried regardless of your profession. My student who came today is a veterinarian. I have an engineering student at George Mason, what I'm teaching currently. And she told me lately that she doesn't see herself going on without something, something creative. She really needs music to complement her engineering studies and her profession. As for me, I decided lately to go to the left side of the brain. And during the pandemic, with a lot of time on my hands, I completed a couple of MBA courses at the George Mason University, and I completed a certificate in graduate business analytics. So I believe that I am a continuous learner. And to be continuous learner, we need teachers. So we really need teachers. I had wonderful teachers in my musical journey. I must say that a lot of my colleagues and friends on stage in Maryland Symphony are teachers as well. My teachers, well, they had different personalities. Some of them were very nurturing and motherly, like Camille Wicks in San Francisco. Some of them were very smart and quirky a little bit, like Charles Castleman at Eastman. And some of them were just downright terrifying. Like, seriously, Zeitlin. We would tiptoe around his studio door, just kind of to this, like, who's he yelling at today? Knowing that it's going to be your turn in, a few hours or tomorrow. But he was really was. He has passed a few years ago, but he was just a wonderful artist, and he took music seriously. So it was really a joy to work with him. One special teacher that I'd like to single out is Oleh Krysa. He's a Ukrainian violinist whom I had the pleasure to meet in high school. When I was in high school in Poland, he came to give a master class. Our paths crossed at Eastman, where I became his assistant in his studio. And I must say that my heart goes out to him, his family, and his people, because I really hope this crisis, political crisis, and the war will end soon. We really need that. I must say that this region is prone to conflict, as you can probably just imagine. Poland, Ukraine, Germany, Russia. I must say that when I grew up, we had a period of martial law in the 80s. And so it was a reaction to the solidarity movement led by Lech Wałęsa. And the restrictions were quite severe. There were food rationing, supply shortages, long queues for everything, and curfews. I must say that it probably was really acutely felt by the adults, more than by the adults than by me, because I was just a child. So I maybe didn't experience the lack of personal freedom as much as they did. But I fantasize about countries that are free, like America, and where you can really freely express yourself, where there is democracy. So I made it here. When I was 17, I came to the Indian music camp for summer. And to my great surprise, what did I find here? Uniforms and curfews. So go figure.
Yes, Interlaken is pretty structured, yes.
Pretty structured. And I must tell you, Jonathan, as a parent of a wonderful teenage age daughter, I totally understand now. Maybe I didn't then, but for sure. And it was at Interlaken that I had my aha moment. I was sitting on stage and playing Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony, the Pathétique, and I realized just how much I love orchestra music. It was one of those electrifying experiences that kind of propelled me forward in my musical studies. I was very fortunate to receive a scholarship from DePauw University in Indiana. I was there for a number of years, and I was very lucky to be sent to Austria for a semester, and the summer in Italy for summer. Later on, I went to San Francisco to study chamber music and violin with Camille Wicks. Came to Rochester to pursue my doctoral studies. And it was there where I joined Syracuse Symphony for 1 year, and then went to join Rochester Philharmonic under the baton of Maestro Christopher Seaman, a great gentleman, a wonderful pragmatist, great interpreter. He was really influential as far as my orchestra playing goes. And that's kind of where our travels began. The orchestra had a long relationship with a music festival in Vail. So we got to play in the mountains. Like it just,
Yeah.
I've been to a couple of countries by then, but there's nothing like the Rockies. They're just magnificent. And I had the pleasure of completing a lot of hikes with my future husband to be, because he was also a doctoral student and played with the orchestra, Steve Owen. He got a job with Army Field Band in Severn in Maryland. Later on, got another job with the President's Own Marine Band, which is his current position right now. So we moved to the area here. I continued going to Rochester as much as I could, but I looked for local jobs. So I saw Maryland Symphony. So how wonderful. I filled the audition form and prepared. And the day of the audition, I opened my violin case and I realized that my bow was unusable. It was my only bow. And I decided, whoa, I can either give up or just try to problem solve. So on the way there, I stopped by a music store, borrowed the bow, and really didn't think much of it, that anything will come of it. But it did. It worked out. So I was very lucky to be accepted and to start working with the great and inspiring musicians on stage in Maryland Symphony. From there on, I also developed a relationship with National Symphony. I became their substitute, and I was able to go on a couple of tours with them. But I must say that I loved meeting the musicians, and a lot of them were pops musicians. I had a great time learning how to play pops music. I think it's just, it's terrific. It's just gives you so much energy and appreciation for other forms than just classical music. So as far as the travels, we went to tons of places, like great concert halls in Berlin, Teatro Colón in Argentina. I got to see the beaches in Rio de Janeiro, the art collection in Hermitage in St. Petersburg, and the Great Wall of China. And let's not forget the camel riding school in Oman. And I must say I'm terrible at riding camels. I don't think that will be my next gig. So, but so I really truly got to travel the world, which is incredible. But I think one specific very, very touching moment came when the orchestra traveled to Warsaw. So it was almost like that melody from Dvorak, second movement of his Ninth Symphony, coming home. I really felt that was such a fulfillment. And my friends, my extended family were able to come. We had a wonderful party for the orchestra, for the violin section. I threw a party, and then I saw my family and partied with them as well. It was just really a special moment. And so
Wow.
I'm very privileged to have so many people who propelled me and helped me on the way on my musical journey, starting with those who bought my sheets for my dorm beds. When I arrived in the States, I had things stuffed in one suitcase, and that just didn't fit there. So and people just helping me along the way and encouraging, and I don't take it lightly. I think that sharing music is a privilege, and it should be taken very seriously. And I just finished my little journey here by quoting my octogenarian friend, who just yesterday said to me, "Music is like medicine. It fills your life with joy and purpose." I think now we can just show a few pictures that I prepared for you.
Terrific. You've brought us a slideshow starting with this is you as a baby?
This is me as a baby, yes. I looked rather intense in there, right?
Adorable. You look like you're ready to start practicing.
Exactly. And this is with my mom. She's a pianist. So maybe that's around the time I started playing the violin, I think. Yes. And the next picture would be the next slide. I think I'm practicing Vivaldi concerto over here.
Wow.
I was fortunate that my sister also played the violin. She's right now an English professor, but we shared some of the music making together. So here's duets with my sister. And I think we can go to the next slide. Thank you. And this is when my doctoral graduation at Eastman with Steve, my husband, and our wedding photo in Poland. We actually had 3 weddings. One in Annapolis, so that's very special, justice of peace, just to start the immigration process, because as a visa, the visa was a bit of a problem. So we did that. Then we had a wonderful wedding for friends and family in Warsaw. And a month later, we had a reception in Kent Manor in Stevensville, right over the Bay Bridge. So I think that sticks, right? 3 times the charm. So we've been really lucky. Actually, just like Jonathan said, it's about 20 years that I've been with Maryland Symphony. It is, and we are coming on our 20th anniversary as well, Steve and I. And the next photo, I think, is our daughters. Yeah, so it's Ray is 11 and Veronica is 15. And as you can tell, well, you can't tell what they're doing, what they have the medals from, but they're amazing swimmers. They rock swimming. They're incredible. They take it very seriously. They practice every day and go to championships. And Veronica lately went to states. She was one of 3 from her high school who qualified to the state competition as a sophomore. And Veronica is a fantastic writer. She loves writing. And Renee also is a ballerina. She loves ballet. So they play a little music. Veronica wants to come back to orchestra. She wants to participate in orchestra in high school. And we're very much encouraging that as well. So we are a very happy family, I think. So,
Wow.
and I think the next picture is from the travel. So the Berlin Philharmonic, we got to hear at the Philharmonic actually, and they're quite incredible. And their hall is just to die for. It's a modern architecture. It's like a gem. And then I put right next door to it the Wiener Concert House, which is one of their concert halls in Vienna. The more famous one is Musikverein. But those are the concert halls that I think were around when Mahler was there, when Mahler was creating. He started his 4th symphony. He started in the very late 1800s, and he completed it in 1901. And I think if we go to this photo, next slide, here we have examples of the architectural styles of the time. And I just wanted to link it a little bit with the music. So I think there's a lot of celebration of nature here. I don't know if it's really visible, but the dome of the Secession building is made of gold leaves that are connected together. And then the Majolika house, Otto Wagner, obviously you can see the floral motifs and just how beautifully everything is blended together. So I felt it would be appropriate to give that kind of an introduction to Secession art, Art Nouveau, to talk about Mahler. If we go to the next slide, we have I chose just a few of the contemporaries. So we have Fritz Kreisler, preeminent violinist of the time, an Austrian who brought this style to the world. We have Gustav Klimt, the painter, and I will show a painting of his at the very end. And we, of course, have Sigmund Freud, the psychoanalyst. But you know what? Let's leave Freud on the couch. We're just going to leave him there. So he can, I don't have any expertise talking about that. But I can play a piece by Fritz Kreisler. So I'm going to play just a little bit of his composition called Liebeslied. And you will notice that I'm using a lot of kind of glissandi, portamentos. I'm kind of approaching the notes with a little bit of a stylistically, which was appropriate for the time. So here's a little bit of Fritz Kreisler Liebeslied.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I didn't know that you were going to play Chrysler, but you're setting me up for such a great plug. Let me just say that on our April program, which is the silent movie program, and maybe you don't know this yet, there will be one selection by Fritz Kreisler.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, something to look forward to. But that was lovely.
So I will compare it. I will play a snippet of a section of Mahler. So if you know, this stuff is a little bit similar. There's a lot of kind of swells in the sound and portamenti. So just a bit of a snippet.
Okay.
So Jonathan, do you think
I was just going to ask you if you could just demonstrate, well, you referred to portamento. So for folks that maybe don't know what that is, just give me a little portamento, one note to another.
Sure, like.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a gliss. And
you know, slide, yeah.
Exactly. I just had one of my friends who is Italian said glissando, it's like, in her understanding, it's like skating on ice. So like smooth on ice. So that's, and you heard it probably in the Chrysler as well. Just a little bit of approaching the note with a little bit of a swing to it.
Yeah, it makes it more romantic sounding.
It sure does.
And more expressive. There's an expression in the portamento. It's not just the two notes, but it's how you get from one to the other. And you're changing positions there. For those who don't know, the violin's played in first position, second position, third position, where you move your hand up and down.
Exactly. So the way I move, I can make a very clean shift. So, or I can make it a little bit more special. So
more gypsy like.
More gypsy, yes, that's right.
Which is Mahler and Chrysler, right?
Mahler and Chrysler has a lot of that influence. Exactly. And I think Mahler had such a gift for melodies, and he just, he's exploding with melodies. So he's his imagination is really terrific, and how much he
Hmm.
was able to include it in his symphonies. Should we go to something called the scoratura? Would you be interested in that subject?
Yes, I think I would, because that's the thing we were alluding to earlier. There's a very distinctive effect, technique, premise that Mahler includes in the Mahler's Fourth Symphony, and it requires quite a bit of extra preparation and thought for the concertmaster, and you'll be our concertmaster for this performance.
That's right, yes. So I have a few slides related to that as well.
Okay. I think I have one as well, which I don't know if you know about, but the self-portrait of the artist Arnold Böcklin, who Alma Mahler, Mahler's wife, says, there it is, says inspired him in how he wrote this this passage, this whole movement in the Mahler Fourth Symphony that you're going to talk about. So you can see in the background behind the portrait of the artist, the self-portrait, behind him is Death playing the violin or the fiddle.
Well, let's see if I can sound like Death. I don't know, but it's certainly he's calling for something a little bit more coarse and maybe untrained. So I will play the opening and see how it's different, and we can talk about why it's different. That we get into that.
Okay. Otherworldly, I would say. That's, I think, the effect.
The effect,
coming
yeah.
from another world.
It absolutely sure is. It's very different from that suave and elegant melodies that we've heard before. I think, like you said, Jonathan, absolutely, he's going for an effect. And rather than kind of going the modernist style, which is too calm with Berg and Webern, minimalist, he's kind of introducing something artistically unique. So,
and you said this is can be described by an Italian term.
Yes, exactly. So I have a slide for that as well. Let's see if we go, I think. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna just back up about tuning. I'm gonna take a few minutes talk about tuning, because if you notice, I have two violins here. So one of them has a normal tuning, and the other one is tuned to a higher pitch. So that's a B natural, and I'm sorry, I can't play both instruments at once, but so all of them are tuned a higher step. But I was kind of interested in the history of tuning. Who decided to set the pitch to a certain hertz, oscillation of wave? And I was familiar with the fact that a lot of Baroque instrumentalists played in much lower pitches, but I dug a little deeper into it. So in 17th and 18th centuries, the pitch could vary from 377 to 567 hertz.
What?
Yes, it's just crazy. Like really, really, really wide difference. So if you know that 440 is or 441 is our the thing that we have right now, the 567.
That's modern standard, sometimes 442. And I'll add that we, professional musicians, we argue a lot over the difference between 440 and 441. So when you say that the pitch varied from 377 to 567, that blows my mind.
It sure did. So I see it as the first example of globalization, because what happened next, we had composers who started traveling, right? Traveling to different cities, and they just couldn't stand the fact that the orchestra would play their pieces so differently. So I think that's kind of the age of travel, and of course, age of industrialization brought a more standard approach to tuning. And surprisingly enough, I found, a book by Lynn Kavanagh that in 1859, it was actually the French government codified the pitch to be 435. So, yay, too. Vive la France. But very unusual, right? And that's pretty late, 1859. So we already had Beethoven, we already had Mendelssohn. This is like we're into Brahms already. So it kind of was very interesting to find out that this was rather late.
And many string players, violinists, soloists play on instruments today at 440 that were built when the pitch was 430 or 435 or whatever. Very interesting.
Absolutely. And if we have time to play that little example, you might see it. And if you look at Baroque art, the instruments will have well, first of all, gut strings made from gut, animal guts, not steel. And also their fingerboards will be way shorter because they just didn't play that high in positions. So the instruments are a little different in general. Yeah. But like you said, they've been appropriated. Of course, the Stradivariuses and Amatis of the time are a little bit more modernized nowadays. Really, truly works of art over there. So the terms, I think in our next slide, it says the scordatura, which is literally in Italian means discord, is tuning of the string instrument that is different from normal tuning. So, and you can even see in this picture, it's crisscrossed. The strings actually are crisscrossed. Well, we're not going to do that here, but this is for one of the Baroque pieces that you have to crisscross the strings. So what I had to do with my violin, this is my second violin. This is I would consider this a baby because it's only like 28 years old. And so I had to move the pegs here to get that higher pitch. I have to be careful. I have to be careful about the bridge of the violin because the bridge is not glued to the instrument itself. It's supported by the tension of the strings. So if the strings are very tense, then the bridge might fall. So that's one of the dangers. And also, I don't keep it at this tuning. I just think that's almost like cruelty. So I tune it down for the night for sure.
Tightening those strings up the strings on a violin are already under a great deal of pressure, put a lot of pressure on the instrument, but adding that tension by tightening them to raise the pitch of the instrument increases the strain on the instrument, but also the strain of the sound.
Absolutely. So you might think, let me just play something super easy, like Twinkle Twinkle. I'll play it on both violins, and let's see if you feel that the sound is different, maybe a little bit more edgy on the second one. So here's the first one, the regular tuning. Okay, and here's the other one.
Wow. Yeah, a very obvious difference. And the way Mahler has used this is just one movement of the Mahler Symphony that he calls for this instrument. And if I understand correctly, during that movement, you're switching back and forth.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So my other violin will be on a chair, and I have to have strategic moments when I take it back and forth because some of the movement calls for a regular violin. So, and it will be, I think I have to switch 2 times. So, so that's kind of how it works only for this movement. So I kind of feel like I'm a woodwind player who doubles on another instrument. So
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
like, clarinet players almost always have two clarinets, a B flat and an A clarinet, or yeah. And wow. Well, I love this piece, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the piece. But this particular bit and learning a little bit more about it is fascinating.
Jonathan, like when I was learning this piece, it's always written as it should be played on the regular violin. So even though you're playing higher pitches, it's kind of like with lute and French horn, you're transposing. So concert pitch is different than the pitch is
Right.
in reality.
That's right.
So
So the note you're playing, you're not hearing what you're used to hearing. I mean, for me as a horn player, I'm used to that. I see a note on the page, it could be almost anything. But has that been a challenge preparing it?
It has. I had to learn like the spacing, if half step or whole step or the spacing between fingers. And I think that really helped me to solidify that feel. Where do the fingers fall? Because I do have relative pitch. So if I look at the page and I think that it should be an A, that really throws me for a loop. So it's a bit of it took some time.
I'm just going to share that our producer Michael Harp has put the YouTube link for that video you were referencing in the chat, so that people can see, the viewers can see it and follow it, and they can get a little more information about this scordatura tuning and this technique. There are a couple questions if
Sure.
you're ready for a few. I have one question that is, what has been your favorite performance so far? Maybe a tough question.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because I have so many, honestly, I feel a lot of times I'm on the stage and I feel the moment and just feel that this is so special. So I try to approach every performance with a great deal of gratitude. But some of that stand out were, in like when I played in Warsaw for my family, that was really terrific. I it just was very emotional. So that just brought some extra layer of connection.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a very special opportunity. You still have family in Poland.
I do. My mom, my sister, and my extended family. Yes.
Great, wonderful. Another question that's been proposed here is, what advice do you have for aspiring musicians? You're teaching people, young students and older alike. What would you sum up your advice for them?
I would say love the music that you're making and seek partners to make music with, because it can be a lonely experience. And I've been in practice rooms for, I think, too long. I think it's been lonely, but just try to create music with others and learn and inspire yourself and inspire others to learn and just love music even more, because it's worth sharing for sure.
Have you performed the Mahler Fourth Symphony before?
No.
So this will be your first time with this. And have you had to do the tuning, the scordatura before?
Never. No. I have a list of, if we do the little slide, that I have one more slide with the scordatura. Michael, thank you, Michael. And there's one below, I think. I found out there are quite a few pieces that use it, but I never really played any of them. So the Henrik Weber, the Rosary Sonatas, with that cross tuning that we've seen, of the 12 sonatas, only one in normal tuning. Very unusual. Then there's Telemann Concerto for two violins. More famous piece is the Danse Macabre by Saint-Saëns, which uses only one to be tuned down to E flat. It creates this very jarring effect of a tritone. Tritone is like this special interval, between notes that was forbidden in the medieval times. It was considered a devil.
It was the devil's interval. Yes, the church frowned on the tritone very much.
Absolutely. And not anymore. Bela Bartok, contrast for violin and clarinet and piano. I played that piece, so that was super fun. The last movement is a folk dance sebes, and it's exactly like, well, not exactly, but you need two violins, and it's tuned again a half step lower, so makes that really kind of funky sound with double stops. It's a fantastic piece. I would encourage anybody who like to get the 20th century piece for chamber music concert, and you know a clarinetist and pianist, go for that one. That's a great one. Eugenie Tsai wrote amazing violin music. He's a solo sonatas, but Poème Elegiac has the G string tuned down. So it gives that kind of a very much deeper sound, almost like viola. I think it fits with the title, and it has a kind of a beautiful, just darker meaning in this music. So that was super fun to learn about. And one more that I did not put in the list, that apparently Paganini was considering doing his first concerto in E flat, which would be such a mistake. So it's in D major, which violinists love the key of D major, the Tchaikovsky,
Sure.
lots of concertos are in D major. But he was considering doing a scoratura for that one. And boy, am I glad he didn't. So, because it's already difficult, and it would be even more difficult to do it. So.
Yes, horn players love E flat, but violinists, they prefer D.
We
Right.
we only do anything that will have an open string related to it. It's
right. That's
really
of course why E flat wouldn't be so great, because you have your strings are G, D, A, and E, not
Absolutely.
E flat. Yeah. So wow, that's really fascinating. Well,
on the next slide, I have that same picture, Jonathan, that you did.
Okay, great.
We were thinking this on the same wavelengths. There was also one source told me that Mahler might have been inspired by Hans Holbein the Younger, so a painter, German painter of the 1500s, who had a series of drawings. This is just one of them. This whole series was Das Totentanz, and so it's very, scary. It's at the end of life, but very, very intense. And I don't know if you're aware, Jonathan. I looked Arnold Böcklin a little bit more. He was a Swiss symbolist painter, and he actually drew quite a few of self-portraits. So one of him is as a young man, and this one, and then the next one, he's an older man, but he's holding a glass of wine. So very different subject matters. I think he's maybe enjoying more life at that stage. So.
Oh, that's fascinating. And now I forget. Now I can't remember now the museum where this is housed, but it's in Europe. This particular painting, this self-portrait from 1872. I was reading about the Fourth Symphony a little bit. I mean, I'm not a historian. I spent most of my career focusing on just learning to play the music, but apparently there was a bit of a competition to be able to premiere Mahler's Fourth Symphony. The second was hugely successful. The third was a massive. It was premiered just before, but there was a bit of competition over the fourth but it also got some mixed reviews. It was probably because the expectation was set by the second and the third. So for viewers who aren't familiar, the second, Mahler's known for his enormous pieces, and the orchestration of the second was huge and had chorus and soloists and gigantic orchestra, and had calls for 10 French horns. And then the third has 8 horns and extra everything, 4 or 5 woodwinds of each variety, enormous orchestra, again chorus. So with the third, he contracts a bit. To my mind, it is every bit the equal of the other works, but there's no chorus, We still have a pretty large wind section. I think there are 4 in some of the wind categories. The horn section is the normal 4, trumpets, no trombones and tuba. It's the only one. So it's almost like, for Mahler anyway, it's a chamber orchestra, but it's still, large string section. So it's very interesting in that he dials it back a bit before he gets big again with 5, 6, 7, and then he just lost his mind entirely with Mahler's 8th Symphony, which we call the Symphony of 1,000 because of how many performers it took to premiere it and everything. But the 4th, for a lot of musicians, completing your Mahler cycle is a great achievement. Where are you in your Mahler cycle?
I'm doing pretty well. Obviously, 1 is we play a lot. I've done 2. I think I've done 3 as well. Yeah, and now 4, 5 is very popular, and I've done 8. So like I'm doing okay, right? So
you
like,
are, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the 5 I've done several times. The 1 I'm still lacking is 7, unfortunately.
We
And
have to put it on
it has great horn parts. So yeah, I don't know if I'll get to complete my set, but they're all wonderful and they're all distinct from each other. But they have that Mahlerian that emotion that is so distinctive to Mahler. It's volatile. It's anguished at one moment and then calm and peaceful the very next. And but 4 is one of my favorites. I'm really looking forward to it.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I looked at the first page of the symphony, and I don't know if you can show it in the screen, but there's so many dynamic changes. Like within a measure, the composer asks you to get quiet, and then back, forte, and then quiet, and then accent. So there's a lot of information that is not just the notes, but also the dynamic. Like you said, it can get very overt and then very quiet and intimate very quickly.
Yes, these sudden changes. It's very mercurial. And this is a distinctive thing, and something as musicians we have to work to be able to deliver. He's very specific. Mahler was, he was often conducting the premiere, or he was there notating the score, or he had somebody. And a lot of the other indications are interesting too, because sort of many standard repertoire pieces are directions are given in Italian. It was sort of the standard language of how to express what the composer wanted. He wants to speed up, you write accelerando, and that could be Beethoven. But they were using Italian as the universal language. But Mahler was writing in German, and very detailed and specific instructions, like a little bit of slowing, but not too much. And we have for horn players, we have a whole glossary of things that we have to be able to, we look up, to understand specifically what he was trying to get. So, it's always, I think, a great achievement for an orchestra to program and perform a Mahler symphony. They're like, each one is a mountain to climb. And I know this one is going to be special for you as well, and we're really looking forward to enjoying it. Let me see if we have any other questions, and if you have anything you want to share with us. I did want to come back to your teaching, and you mentioned the wide range of students. I have had also that kind of. So I think a message to leave for our viewers with is it's never too late. I had a student some years ago who had played the horn all the way through high school and then given it up, and was retiring from a college professorship in his 70s and wanted to take up the French horn again. And he became one of my most loyal students for 5 or 6 years. So it's you just need that passion. And you know, don't think that just because you didn't start when you were 4 that you can't do it. And Dr. Owen is ready to start you on your violin lessons. I might have to take up violin again. You know, I studied it for 4 years.
You did?
I did. I
Oh,
did. Yeah.
fantastic. Was that your first instrument, or?
Yes, really it was 4 years. And I credit my Suzuki violin training with giving me the foundation that helped me take on the French horn, which can be very challenging for a beginner. And I think that Suzuki training helped train my ear a bit. So, but
Absolutely.
yes, yeah, I can still play a couple little notes, but
Oh, that's great. Does your daughter play an instrument?
not yet. She just did. We had symphony Saturdays all the month of February, and she attended all of those. So now she has a housophone that we built in the brass session, and she has a recorder, and she has a little shaker egg from the percussion session. So yeah, so she may take up music. We'll see. We're not pushing, but
I'm the same way with my children.
Yeah, I mean, loved hearing about your daughters and their swimming, and your youngest daughter dancing. So
Passion comes in many ways, and music does not have to be a profession to be a passion. So I truly believe that people can reach to it at any stage of life, like you said, Jonathan, and from any angle. So.
And certainly, even if you are not studying it or playing an instrument, enjoying it and just, you know, being open to that experience. So our concerts are coming up in a couple of weeks, March 12th and 13th. And I think I already said at the top of the program, this is kind of special program because this is the program that was interrupted and canceled by that very unwelcome occurrence in March of 2020. We had one rehearsal of this piece, and then we had to cancel the concert for the pandemic there. So we really feel like we've come full circle now. We've brought this concert back. So I encourage people to visit the Maryland Symphony website, marylandsymphony.org, to look for tickets. We're welcoming back our live audience after 2 concerts that we were forced to stream only. So a live audience hearing a Mahler symphony, which is not something you hear every day. And it's going to be a terrific performance. Joanna Owen will be our concertmaster. And Joanna, we thank you so much for sharing with us your story and some inspiration and the inside baseball, we call it, about the scordatura.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you. Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. We will see you the next time in the Musician Studio.